welcome to my channel. This is Jessica from Just Give Me Jesus, and I am working on our challenge for this week. We have 5 days of creativity using different types of paper. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I just did a little page in my inspiration journal, and today I'm just taking day 1 and using vintage papers. So I gathered my tray that Melissa suggested of some different things. I didn't just pick 3, but that's okay. I have some little stuff that I pull from. And right now I'm looking through, this is my color journal that I still have yet to finish my video on. I have the video, got to edit it. And I'm just looking through the pages because these are made from a vintage dictionary. I think it was a dictionary, yeah. They're vintage paper. And I used some spray inks on them. I found that dictionary at a thrift store. And so I'm just going to add it to, this is actually vintage ledger paper that's already in my journal. And I'm going to glue it down with, I'll have to look and see what that glue is called, but the glue that dries pretty quickly. The one good thing about vintage paper is you can find it really anywhere. I know if you are listening to our podcast of Creative Faith and Friends, you heard us talking about estate sales and thrift stores and libraries at their book sales, just grabbing some old books that are honestly going to go in the trash if they're not used. And that's one of the best ways to get old books, because then you don't feel bad about tearing them up or cutting them up or however you want to use them. So I pulled some other things. Now this doily is not vintage, but it's pretty. So I'm going to use it, and I'm just kind of playing around with some placement. And I like that it's kind of tilted so you can still see that paper in the background. And both of these, that milk top and that little ticket or whatever it is, I don't really know what it is, but I love it, are vintage because I love getting vintage goods. And I'll mention a couple of sellers on Instagram that I get different things from with vintage papers. I have a whole tray of vintage papers that I love, and vintage ephemera. All of this, all of the pieces I'm messing with right now are vintage ephemera, and I will use every little bit, every giblet, every little bit. So I'm just putting them down to try and determine kind of how I like it, and I love that right there. I think it's chart graph, I don't know. It's some kind of roll paper that I really like, and I'll also link the Etsy shop where I have gotten my paper like that before. I love those little holes. It adds so much to your page. Just see that vintage dictionary inked paper peeking through those little bitty holes. You can also put threads or different things through them, and they're super pretty. But now I got to glue it down because I'm going to get really confused and forget everything I've done on the page if I don't go ahead and start gluing some of these pieces down. So it's super easy. And I'm just using that card to smooth it out and make sure it's down well. I'm really bad about gluing papers underneath, so I am not being careful enough. But this one actually turned out okay. Usually I end up gluing it to something else. I'm looking for scissors. I have lots of different scissors, and yet I can't ever find my scissors that I need. I end up using some that I don't really like, but it's okay. They got the job done. And usually I would wait till I'm completely finished with the page to cut around the edges, but I was having a hard time making sure that I got this the way I wanted it with that whole circle there. So I just want to cut part of that off. And I'm just gluing down these pieces. I didn't mean to sigh. That was unintentional. Sorry about that. Gluing down these little pieces. I forgot that I wanted that to go under there. I do that so often. I forget where things need to go. And then I have to start over. That goes there. But it was supposed to go under too. I love finding vintage pieces that have old handwriting on them. That's my favorite on vintage paper. So I'm just gluing away. I don't always use this. I usually use stick glue on these little pieces, or glue sticks, or stick glue, glue sticks, same thing, right? I didn't have that right there. I should have, because it was at my desk, but it's probably under something buried. And that's actually a label from the Pink Paper Peppermints March kit. No, April kit. We're in April, aren't we? April kit that she just released this past Friday. And this was one of the blank ones, so I thought it would work really well with that. But I can't have a piece that doesn't have some ink on it. So I pulled out my Distress Oxide, and it's peeled paint was the color. And I'm just inking around the edges because I like it how it will set that apart from the rest of my page if it's inked. And I usually use Vintage Photo if I'm doing that, but I decided today the green would be really pretty because I've got so much green. This is River Birch Bark, came from my mama's yard, and I love it in collage. So I'm just kind of moving this around because this verse goes with our word for the week of new, and I'm moving that around, and I am just making sure that I don't need anything else, but that bottom corner is bugging me. So I actually end up using this clear sticker. It's just a pretty flower, and I'm going to try another one in a minute, but I like that pop of red on there, which I'm not really a red person in journals, but I just thought it was different and it contrasts with the rest of the colors. So it just added a little something. But I have a hard time deciding that, and that's okay too. And sometimes I really struggle with, do I really like that there? But sometimes you just got to go for it. So I'm gluing that bark down. And that bark is flat and flaky and so pretty. I just love it. It adds so much in a collage. And I think it is so neat when you can pull in natural elements along with your paper pieces to just add a different texture to your page. And I actually printed off that verse on my faux memo printer. I mentioned that as one of my fun finds in a podcast recently. And so I just copied and pasted it on my phone and printed that out and put that on the label that Melissa had done at Pink Paper Peppermints. And this is another little label that had come out as a freebie in her newsletter for the podcast. And I'm going to use that, and I just inked just the very edge of that just to make sure that it stood apart from the page and the pink label under it. But I want to write the word new on it. And those little stickers are sticky, and I struggle with getting that down right, but that's okay too. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's so hard sometimes, but it just doesn't have to be perfect. But I do need to cut those edges off so that they don't stick on everything underneath, because, oh, that's no fun. And I'm going to add the word new to that little label because I do like focusing on that word and reminding myself of why I chose that Bible verse. So I had to grab my paint pen from the floor. Let's just not talk about the state of my craft room. And we're not going to discuss my lettering either because it was not what I typically like. But, you know, it's okay. It's not always going to be beautiful and pretty, and that's okay too. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed watching this video. Please like, follow, and subscribe, and check me out on Instagram at Just Give Me Jesus. Have a fantastic day.